The moon was quiet, covered in ash and broken metal. Callan's boots crunched as he walked through the remains of an old supply station. His scanner beeped once, then went silent. He narrowed his eyes, reading the weak signal. It was coming. From a crashed ship buried under debris, he climbed over sharp wreckage, metal beams sticking out like claws. Something had burned through the hull, but the structure still stood halfway intact. Inside, it was dark. Then he heard it, a soft, heavy breath, like someone holding back pain. Callan raised his flashlight and stepped in. The beam landed on a shape, massive and still. It was a woman, a giantess, easily twice his height. Her skin a smooth gray blue, marked by bruises. Her shoulder was bleeding. Her leg twisted under crushed equipment, but her golden eyes stared at him, wide with fear. "Don't move," Callan said gently. Lowering his weapon, "I'm not here to hurt you." The alien woman growled low, but weakly. "You're human," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Yes, and you're hurt," he replied. "Let me help." She tried to push him away, but her arm gave out. He moved closer and pulled out his medkit. The wound on her shoulder was deep, as he cleaned. She flinched, but said nothing. "Name's Callan," he said softly. "You?" She hesitated, then mumbled, "Vera." "All right, Vera." Callan smiled. "You're lucky I found you." Vera didn't respond, just looked away. Then she muttered, "They left me here." "Who?" "My own people," she said, voice cracking. "They said I was too big, not breeding material, not worth saving." Callan paused, heart heavy. He looked at her. Leadley looked tanned, saw someone broken. Not because she was weak, but because others had crushed her spirit. "I think they're wrong," he said simply. Vera blinked. "Not expecting that. You don't know what I am," she said. "I was rejected by every male, mocked by my own sisters. Too tall, too broad, too strange." Callan chuckled. "Sounds like a bunch of cowards to me." She tilted her head, confused. "You don't see me as a monster." "No," he said, wrapping her wound carefully. "I see a woman who's still breathing after all this, and that's more than most." The ship creaked above them. A storm was coming, wind howling through the cracks in the hull. "You can't." "Stay here," Callan said. "It's not safe. I can't move," she said flatly. "Then I'll move you." "You're too small," she replied with a bitter smile. "Maybe," Callan shrugged. "But I've got tools and stubbornness." He returned to his rover and brought a stretcher. Reinforced with carbon support, it took nearly an hour to lift her, and another to drag her back through the wreckage. She didn't complain once, just stared at him, confused and silent. By nightfall, Callan had set up a tent, heaters, and food packets. He gave her soup, but she stared at it like it was poison. "You think I'm disgusting," she whispered suddenly. "Why would I?" "Because I'm not soft and small like the females you're used to." Callan looked her in the eye. "I don't care about size, Vera," he said. "I care that you're still trying to live, even after everything." Her eyes shimmered, but she turned away, hiding her face. "I don't want your pity," she whispered. "You don't have it," he replied. "You have my respect." The silence between them wasn't cold anymore. It was calm, steady, full of something she hadn't felt in years: safety. Later that night, as the wind howled outside the tent, Callan noticed Vera shaking, not from cold, but fear, bad dreams. He asked. She nodded, her voice soft. "They haunt me." He didn't say anything, just moved closer and offered his hand. She stared at it, then slowly took it, and for the first time in a long, long time, Vera didn't feel alone. The wind outside howled louder as the acid storm rolled closer. Lightning flashed across the ash-gray sky, burning holes through the clouds. Callan secured the tent ropes tighter while Vera lay inside, still healing from her wounds, her large frame barely fit the small shelter. But Callan had added more layers to support it. It wasn't perfect, but it was safe. "Storm's closing in fast," Callan muttered, peeking out at the darkening horizon. Vera stirred, her eyes heavy but alert. "I can feel it," she whispered. "The pressure makes my bones ache." Callan sat beside her and passed a heat pack into her arms. She held it close, her fingers still shaking slightly. "You should have left me," she said again. "I'm not worth all this trouble." Callan raised an eyebrow. "You say that a lot." "'Cause it's true," she mumbled, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. The wind screamed louder. Now, shaking the tent, he placed extra metal plates around the structure to hold it down. Vera watched him, surprised by his effort. "Why do you care?" she asked suddenly. "You don't even know me." Callan didn't answer right away. He finished sealing the flap and then turned toward her. "You're alive," he said simply. "That's enough for me." Her golden eyes softened, but doubt still lingered in her voice. "My kind doesn't see me that way," she said. "They only saw my body. Too large, too rough, too strange. Well, I see someone who needs soup." He grinned, handing her a hot packet. She stared at it, then carefully took it, sipping slowly. The warmth spread through her chest, and for the first time, she didn't feel like she had to pretend to be strong. They sat in silence, the storm growing louder. Rain hissed as it hit the protective roof, eating into anything exposed. "Not safe to go out there for at least 10 hours, Callan noted, looking at the timer on his wrist device. "That long?" Vera asked, voice low. "Afraid so." Her breathing slowed, and she leaned against the support beam, even while sitting. Her head nearly brushed the top of the tent. "I always hated my size," she said softly. "It made everything harder. Even sleeping," Callan chuckled. "I could build you a bigger bed." She gave him a sideways glance, then actually smiled a small, sad smile. "No one's ever offered that before." "Well," Callan shrugged, "it's about time someone." Dead hours passed as the storm raged on. Callan used leftover ship panels to widen the tent, making more space for her. He gave her extra cushions from his rover and built a wall between her side and the cold outside. All while she watched, stunned. "You act like you've done this before," she said quietly. "I've built shelters for all kinds of creatures," he replied, "but never for someone as stubborn as you." She blinked, unsure if that was an insult or a compliment. But then she laughed just a little. "Maybe I'm stubborn because no one ever fought for me," she whispered. "So I had to fight for myself." Callan stopped working and looked at her seriously. "You don't have to fight alone anymore." Her eyes flickered with something hope. Maybe. But she said nothing, only looked down at her hands. Later, they shared a meal, and Callan told her stories of Earth. She listened quietly, amazed by the strange animals and oceans he spoke of. When he described snowfall, she closed her eyes as if trying to imagine it. "It sounds peaceful," she said. "It is," Callan replied. "I'll take you there someday." She opened her eyes slowly. "You'd take me to your home, a human world." "Why not?" he said. "You deserve more than this rock." Vera fell silent. Again, her mind spinning. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Not like a burden, not like a joke, but like a person. As the night deepened, the storm raged harder, and the temperature dropped. The heater buzzed, but it couldn't cover the whole space. Callan's teeth chattered a little, even with his jacket. "You're cold," Vera said. Noticing his shiver, "Eh?" "Bit," he admitted, "but I'm fine." She hesitated, then moved slightly, patting the space beside her. "You could stay close, if you want," she whispered, not looking at him. "I'm warm." Callan stared for a second, then nodded. He climbed in beside her, careful and respectful. Her body radiated heat like a furnace. He relaxed instantly, sighing with relief. "You're not scared of me?" she asked softly. "No," he answered. I'm more scared of what would have happened if I hadn't found you." Her eyes glistened. She leaned her head against his shoulders, lowly, carefully, and for the first time in her life, she let herself rest, not as a rejected outcast, but as someone who was finally wanted. The storm had passed, but the cold silence inside the tent stayed like a shadow. Callan woke up slowly, still wrapped in the warmth of Vera's presence. Her arm was loosely draped around him, heavy and protective. He didn't move, not wanting to break the moment. Her breathing was slow, deep, calm until it wasn't. A sudden tremble went through her body. Her face twisted, her brows pulled tight. Then she whispered something soft, broken. "No. Don't look at me, please." Callan sat up gently and placed a hand on her arm. "Vera," he said softly, "you're dreaming." Her eyes opened fast. Wide with panic, she pulled away, breathing hard like she had run for miles. Tears slid down her cheeks, and she turned her face to hide them. "I'm sorry," she choked. "I didn't mean to. I didn't want you to see me like this." "See you like what?" Callan asked. "Confused, weak," she whispered, crying, shaking. Ashamed, he reached for her hand, her fingers long and trembling. "Vera," he said gently, "you don't need to hide from me." She shook her head slowly. "You don't get it. My first bond match came when I was still young," she began, voice barely holding steady. "He saw me, touched me, then laughed, said I was made for war, not love." Her voice cracked again. "They called me a beast, a failed female. They said no child would ever grow inside me." Callan felt his heart twist. He didn't say anything, just listened. And that silence gave her the strength to go on. "I trained harder," she said. "I became strong, unbeatable, thinking maybe they'd want me then, but strength only made them fear me more. Or worse, mock me from a distance." Callan moved closer, gently placing a hand on her arm. "They were fools," he said firmly. "No," she replied with a bitter smile. "They were normal. I was the mistake. You are not a mistake," Callan said softly, but with strength in his voice. "You survived everything they threw at you. You still care. You still cry. That makes you more alive than any of them." Vera closed her eyes, and the tears came again. This time freely. She didn't try to stop them, and Callan didn't try to fix her. He simply held her hand, never letting go. For a long while, they sat in silence, only the sound of her breathing and the soft hum of the heater between them. Then Vera spoke again, voice raw. "When I saw you walk into that wreckage, I thought you were a hallucination. No one comes back for the rejected, but you did." Callan looked into her golden eyes and said, "I wasn't coming for a mission, Vera. I was following a signal. But I found something more. I found you." She looked at him, truly looked, not as a curious human, not as a soldier, but as someone who saw her as a woman. "You're not scared of my size?" she asked again, her voice small. Callan chuckled gently. "Your size saved my life when that beam almost crushed me." She blinked, surprised. "You could have run. But you held it up with your back," he said. "You got hurt for me." Her gaze lowered, then slowly she said, "I didn't think about it. My body just moved, maybe because you were the first person who ever looked at me without flinching." Callan reached out and touched her cheeks, soft, strong, wet with tears. "I think your heart is bigger than your body," he said. Smiling, her lips trembled again. "No one's ever said that." He moved closer, letting his forehead rest against her arm. "Then I'll keep saying it." Vera let out a deep breath, a sound that was half sob, half laugh. "I don't know what's happening to me," she whispered. "You make me feel small." Callan looked up, grinning. "Good," he said. "Now you know how I feel standing next to you." She laughed again, real warm, light, and this time, she didn't hide her face when the tears came. That night, Callan stayed close beside her, not out of duty, but choice. He didn't offer shallow comfort or empty promises. He simply stayed, strong and steady, and when she finally fell asleep again, her hand was still holding his. The storm was gone. The sky outside was bright, glowing with the soft light of twin suns. But inside the shelter, everything was still except her. Vera sat by herself, trying to fix a piece of her armor. Her large hands moved slowly, unsure, clumsy. She wasn't used to working with such small human tools. Across from her, Callan watched, amused but quiet. He didn't laugh, not even when she dropped the same tool 3 times in a row. She finally gave up and let it clatter to the floor. "I'm not made for delicate things," she muttered. "Doesn't mean you can't learn," Callan said gently, walking over. He picked up the piece and sat beside her. "Let me show you." She blinked at him, surprised. "You're not afraid I'll crush you?" "No," he smiled. "You've carried me through worse." Carefully, he placed the tool into her hand and guided her fingers. His smaller hands touched hers. Firm but respectful, Vera stiffened, her heart thudding in her chest like war drums. She wasn't used to touch. Not like this. Not soft, not patient, not kind. "See?" Callan said. "You're doing it." She looked down, shocked to find she was adjusting the small part correctly. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "You tricked me into fixing it myself." He grinned. A little. Vera let out a laugh, deep and full. Callan froze, surprised by the sound. It was strong, beautiful, and it made his chest feel warm. Her smile faded slowly as she looked at him, really looked. "You're different from anyone I've met," she whispered. "You look at me like I'm more than just a body." Callan leaned closer. "Because you are," he said softly. Her breath caught. The air between them shifted, heavy and electric. For a long second, neither of them moved. Then she whispered, "Do you want to touch me?" Callan didn't answer with words. He reached up slowly, placed his hand gently on her face. His palm rested on her cheek, rough skin under his fingers, warm and trembling. Her eyes fluttered closed. No one had touched her face before, not in kindness, not in care. It felt like fire and comfort all at once. "I'm not soft," she said, almost like an apology. "No," he said, "you're real." Tears threatened again, but she held them back this time. Instead, she moved closer. Her forehead touched his gently. "I've broken things by mistake," she said. "Doors, tools, even bones." Callan smiled. "Then we'll take it slow." Her lips parted. "Nervous? Slow." "Slow," he nodded. "No rush, no pressure." Her chest rose and fell, and then, carefully, she placed her massive hand over his heart. It was so large it covered nearly his whole chest, but her touch was feather-light. "I can feel it," she whispered. "Your heart and mine feels you," he said, without hesitation. That broke something inside her, not in pain, but release. Like a wall finally falling after years of holding back. She closed her eyes and leaned into him, not crushing, not overpowering, just close. Close enough to feel the warmth of his breath. "I don't know what this means," she said softly. "It means you're not alone anymore." He replied, "And neither am I." They sat like that for a long time, holding each other in the silence, no weapons, no armor. Just 2 broken beings finding peace in touch. The old Verada, rejected, the feared, the forgotten faded away in that moment, and something new took her place, not because of a miracle, but because someone dared to touch her and not let go. When the sun set that night, they stayed close, and when she finally whispered, "Stay with me," he answered without pause, "Always." The nights were longer now. The storm clouds had passed, but the chill remained in the air, inside the shelter. Heat still flickered from the small generator, but the warmth that filled the space came from something else. From them, Vera had changed, not in size or shape, but in the way she moved. She was no longer stiff or hiding behind her armor. She walked with softer steps, sat with ease, and even let herself smile without guilt. Callan saw it all, and he never said too much. He only noticed, quietly, with admiration in his eyes, they were sitting by the fire lamp that evening. The last of their meal finished, soft music from Callan's device playing low in the background. Vera leaned back and looked up at the stars through the clear tarp. "Do you think there's a place out there," she asked, "where someone like me could belong?" "You're already in that place," Callan replied, without looking away from her. She turned to him, eyes glowing softly. "You say things like that and make me believe them." "Because I mean them," he said. "You think your body is too big, too different, but I've never seen anyone move the way you do, strong and graceful. Like a mountain that learned to dance." Vera blinked, stunned. No one had ever described her with beauty, only with function. Fighter, carrier, guard. "But never graceful. Are all human males like this?" she asked, a hint of laughter in her voice. "Like what?" "Gentle," she said, looking away shyly, and full of strange words that touched the heart. "No," Callan smiled. "Most wouldn't have lasted a day here." She laughed, but then her face grew quiet again. There was a question sitting in her throat, one she had buried for too long. She spoke it slowly. "Do you desire me?" The question stunned the air between them, not because Callan didn't know the answer, but because of how long she had waited to ask. He didn't move fast, didn't rush. He stood up and walked to her, then knelt beside her and took her hand in both of his. "Yes," he said, "I do. I desire you, Vera, not in spite of your size, but because of it." Her breath caught. "You're not afraid I'll break you?" He smiled. "Then break me gently." She blinked hard, her fingers tightening around his. Tears welled in her eyes. But these were different. These were not from shame or pain. They were from hope. She leaned down, and Callan rose up. Their lips met, not perfectly, not smoothly, but honestly. Her hand rested on his back, pulling him close. His arms wrapped around her neck, holding on like he belonged there. The night turned quiet again. But not the kind of quiet that comes from loneliness. The kind that wraps around to people learning to breathe together. They lay beside each other after, under soft blankets and fading firelight. Her arm curled protectively around him. His fingers traced the ridges of her skin slowly, gently. "Was I enough?" she asked in a whisper, her voice trembling. "You were more than enough," he replied, his voice full of awe. "You made me feel like I touched something sacred." Her cheeks flushed with color. "I never thought anyone would say that to me, and I never thought I'd say it," Callan replied. "But here we are." They stayed close through the night. She didn't flinch when he touched her. He didn't pull away when she reached for him. Something had changed between them, not just attraction, but connection, real, deep, alive. And somewhere inside her, beneath ribs and scars, something stirred. Something new, something warm. She couldn't name it, not yet. But it felt like a seed planted in her soul, a spark waiting to grow. Asterisk, the peace didn't last. It never does, not for people like them, not for a human and an alien giantess who dared to love. It began with a low rumble in the sky. Callan stepped outside the shelter, blinking into the sunlight. Then he saw them, 3 ships, sleek and silver, descending fast. Each one carried the crest of Vera's people. Vera stepped out behind him, her eyes wide and full of disbelief. "That's a search team," she said, voice tight. "They came back." Callan looked at her. "Good thing, right?" But her face said otherwise. "No," she whispered. "Not for me." The ships landed hard, kicking up ash and dust. Doors opened, and armored figures stepped out. They looked just like her tall. Strong, regal but colder, sharper. Leading them was a male warrior with gold markings on his armor. "Vera," he called, his voice loud and sharp. "We thought you were dead. You should be dead." Callan moved closer to her, but she stepped forward on her own. "I survived," she said, "and I'm not going back with you." The warrior laughed bitterly. "You think we came to bring you home?" He said, "No, we came to collect the wreckage. Imagine our surprise when we saw you with that," he said, pointing at Callan. The others laughed quietly, cruelly. Callan stayed calm, but his fists clenched. He had no weapons that could match them, only his words. "She's alive because she chose to fight," Callan said, "and she didn't need you to do it." The warrior stepped forward, towering over him. "She is not for you, human," he growled. "Her kind bonds through strength, not weakness. You think your soft touches and foolish words make her yours?" Vera's eyes burned. "I'm not yours either, Corin," she snapped. "You mocked me in front of our elders, left me behind, called me unfit. I was being honest." Corin replied coldly. "You were too big, too slow, too wild, and yet here I am," she said, stepping beside Callan. "Alive, stronger than ever, and standing with the one who never flinched when he saw me." Corin's eyes narrowed. "You bonded with him?" Vera didn't hesitate. "Yes," she said, her voice clear. "I chose him." Murmurs spread through the group, some shocked, some disgusted, others curious. A female stepped forward, whispering, "Is it true? He touches you without fear." "Yes," Vera said, "and he does not see me as a tool or a failure." Corin's face turned red with anger. "You shame your bloodline," he said. "You disgrace your kind." Callan stepped in front of her. "You don't get to decide what honors her kind," he said, voice low but steady. "You had your chance, and you left her, broken and bleeding. I found her, healed her, and loved her." The group fell silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. Vera looked at Callan with something burning in her chest, something proud, something new. Then Corin smirked. "Then prove it," he said. "If your bond is real, she must defend it." He threw down his spear. "I challenge your claim." Vera growled, stepping forward, but Callan stopped her. He turned and placed his hand over her belly. "Not now," he said quietly, and she froze, eyes wide, because in that moment, she knew. Her breathing quickened. She touched her stomach with shaking hands. "There's life," she whispered. "Inside me, Callan." Nodded slowly. "I felt it last night," he said. "It was faint, but it's there." The warriors stared in disbelief. "A hybrid," someone whispered. "But that's impossible." "No," said the female officer softly. "It's a miracle." Corin stepped back, shaken. She was never supposed to. She did. Callan interrupted. "Not because of your rules, not because of your tests, but because someone loved her without conditions." Vera straightened her back, taller and stronger than ever. "I was never too big," she said. "I was always enough. You just couldn't see it." The group lowered their eyes. Even Corin had no words left. Then Vera turned to Callan and held out her hand. "Let's go," she said. "I don't need their approval." He took her hand, proud and unshaken, and together they walked away, while behind them her people stood in stunned silence, watching the outcast become the legend. They walked far, past the broken ridges of the ashlands, past the bones of old machines and forgotten outposts. Hand in hand, they said nothing for a long time. But their silence was not empty. It was full of change, full of meaning, full of life when they reached a high cliff overlooking the horizon. Vera sat down slowly. Her hand rested over her belly, still unsure, still in awe. Callan crouched beside her, watching her face closely. "You feel it too now, don't you?" he asked softly. Vera nodded slowly. "There's something inside me," It's warm, it's small, but it's real. She looked at him with wide golden eyes. How is this possible? Callan smiled. I don't know, he said, but I'm glad it is. Her voice trembled as she whispered, I was told. I couldn't carry life, that I wasn't shaped right. That no child would ever want me as their mother. He gently touched her cheek, and now, what do you believe? She took a deep breath. I believe they were wrong, she said. I believe that what grows inside me is not just a child, it's proof. Proof of what? Callan asked. Proof that I was never broken, she replied, her voice shaking, only waiting. For the right kind of love, a tear slid down her cheek. But this time, she didn't wipe it away. Callan moved closer and wrapped his arms around her. And she leaned into him, finally at peace with who she was. Days passed. They set up a new shelter near the mountain ridge, safer, warmer, open to the stars. Callan used parts from both of their old ships to build a small home. It wasn't big, but it was theirs. Vera grew stronger every day. She moved with more purpose, more pride. The fear in her voice faded, replaced with quiet confidence. She spent her mornings feeling her stomach, smiling at the smallest flutters, and Callan would kiss her belly every night, whispering, hello, little spark. We are waiting for you. The others returned once, a smaller group. Led by the same female officer who had spoken kindly before. They brought supplies, food, medicine, even bedding. We come with no judgment. The officer said, bowing. Slightly, you are carrying a future none of us expected. Vera accepted their help. But she did not bow. She was not a servant now. She was a mother, a mate, a miracle. One of the younger warriors stared at her belly with wonder. Is it true, he asked, that a human made it possible? Vera smiled and pulled Callan closer. It was not his species, she said. It was his heart. The group left respectfully, and word spread quickly across her homeworld, across human colonies. Stories were told of the outcast, giantess, and the human who saw her worth. They became a symbol not just of love, but of hope. That life could grow in unexpected places, that what is rejected by many might be sacred to one. Months passed, Vera's belly grew round and firm, and she moved slower now. Callan stayed by her side through every step. He carved a wooden charm, shaped like a star, and placed it above their bed. It's the first thing our child will see, he said. A star made by love, one night as a soft rain fell from above. Vera lay on her side, holding Callan's hand tightly. Her eyes shimmered. As she whispered, Are you afraid? Callan kissed her forehead. No, he said. I've already lived a full life just by loving you, she cried, then, quietly, into his chest. But it wasn't sadness, which joy so strong it shook her. I never thought I'd be anyone's first choice, she said. You were my only choice, he replied. And when the stars shifted overhead, when the fire crackled low, when the wind hummed softly through their shelter, Vera felt the first kick. She gasped and grabbed his hand, placing it over her stomach. Callan felt it too, one small bump, and then another. Their eyes met, full of tears and wonder. She's real, Vera whispered. He or she, Callan said with a smile. Doesn't matter. She replied, she's ours. And in that moment, under a sky full of stars, they knew their child would be born not just of two different species, but of trust, of courage, of love that no rule, no law, no rejection could ever erase.